The blue whale is so incredibly massive that it is difficult to wrap your brain around its size. These creatures can grow to be 100 feet long, which is roughly the length of 3 school buses parked end to end. To give you an idea of how much space they take up inside, their hearts are about the size of a bumper car, and their tongues alone weigh as much as an entire elephant. Even their blood vessels are so wide that a small child could theoretically swim through them. Despite being the largest animals to ever exist on Earth, they survive by eating tiny shrimp-like creatures called krill, filtering millions of them through giant plates in their mouths every single day. The secret language of trees. When you walk through a forest, you might think the trees are just standing there silently, but they're actually communicating through a complex underground network. This system is often nicknamed the Wood Wide Web. It is made up of tiny fungi that connect the roots of different trees together. Through this network, trees can share nutrients like water and sugar with one another. More surprisingly, they can send out chemical warning signals. If a tree is being attacked by bugs, it sends a message through the roots so that neighboring trees can start producing bitter chemicals to protect themselves before the bugs arrive. How honey never spoils. Archaeologists have actually found pots of honey inside ancient Egyptian tombs that are thousands of years old, and the honey is still perfectly edible. The reason honey lasts forever is a combination of chemistry and the hard work of bees. Honey is naturally very low in moisture, which means bacteria and mold cannot grow in it because they need water to survive. Additionally, honey is quite acidic, and when bees make it, they add an enzyme that produces a small amount of hydrogen peroxide. This creates a natural barrier that kills off any germs, making honey one of the only foods that truly has no expiration date. The strange way octopuses taste. An octopus does not just use its mouth to figure out what it's eating. Most of its neurons are actually located in its arms rather than its brain, which means each arm can almost think for itself. On every suction cup, there are specialized sensors that allow the octopus to taste whatever it touches. This is why you will see an octopus reaching into tiny cracks and crevices in rocks. It is literally tasting the environment to find hidden crabs or fish. If it touches something that tastes like food, the arm could decide to grab it and pull it toward the mouth without the main brain even having to give a direct command. There's a planet far outside our solar system that looks like a beautiful, deep blue marble floating in space, but is actually one of the most violent places imaginable. The blue color does not come from oceans like Earth, but from a thick atmosphere filled with silicate particles, which are the main ingredient in glass. Because the planet is so hot and has incredibly fast winds reaching 5,400 miles per hour, it literally rains molten glass. Because of the extreme wind speeds, the glass does not fall straight down. It blows sideways in a constant, cutting storm that would shred anything in its path instantly. The incredible memory of crows. Crows are much smarter than most people give them credit for, and they have the ability to recognize individual human faces. Researchers have performed experiments where they wore specific masks while capturing and tagging crows. Years later, those same crows would dive bomb and scream at anyone wearing that specific mask, even if the person was in a different crowd of people. Even more amazing is that the crows who were never captured also started attacking the person in the mask. This proves that crows talk to each other and pass down information about who is a friend and who is a foe to their children and neighbors. The weight of a single cloud. Clouds look like fluffy, light tufts of cotton candy floating effortlessly in the sky, but they are actually incredibly heavy. A typical white cumulus cloud, the kind you see on a sunny day, can weigh about 1.1 million pounds. This is because a cloud is made of millions of tiny water droplets spread out over a huge area. The only reason that much weight doesn't just fall on our heads is that the air underneath the cloud is denser and keeps it pushed up. It is similar to how oil floats on top of water. The cloud is just slightly less dense than the air around it, so it stays suspended. The map of your blood vessels. If you took every single blood vessel out of an adult human body and laid them all out in a straight line, they would stretch for about 60,000 to 100,000 miles. To put that in perspective, the circumference of the entire Earth is only about 24,901 miles. That means your internal plumbing, including your arteries, veins, and tiny capillaries, is long enough to wrap around the entire planet more than 3 times. This massive network is necessary because every single cell in your body needs a constant supply of oxygen and nutrients to stay alive. The silent roar of the sun. Even though we think of space as a silent vacuum, the sun is actually an incredibly noisy place. It is essentially a giant ball of nuclear explosions happening constantly. If sound could travel through the vacuum of space and reach Earth, the sun would be deafening. Scientists estimate that the sound of the sun would be around 100 decibels by the time it reached us, which is as loud as standing right next to a leaf blower or a lawnmower. We are very lucky that space is a vacuum, or we would have to live with a constant thunderous roar coming from the sky every second of every day. The power of wombat poop. Wombats are the only animals in the entire world that produce poop in the shape of cubes. This is not just a weird coincidence. It is a vital survival tool. Wombats use their droppings to mark their territory and discourage other wombats from entering their space. Because wombats have poor eyesight but a great sense of smell, they pile their poop on top of rocks and fallen logs, so the scent carries further in the wind. Since the poop is cube-shaped, it stays perfectly in place and does not roll off the log like a round or oval-shaped dropping would. Their intestines have special ridges and varying levels of thickness that squeeze the waste into these perfect blocks. The immortal jellyfish. There is a specific species of jellyfish called Turritopsis dohrnii that has discovered the secret to living forever. When this jellyfish gets old, sick, or faces a period of starvation, it does not die. Instead, it transforms its cells back into their earliest state. It essentially turns itself back into a baby polyp and starts its life cycle all over again from the beginning. It can repeat this process an infinite number of times, which means that unless it is eaten by a predator or killed by a disease it cannot recover from, it could theoretically live for millions of years. The giant fungus of Oregon. When people think of the largest living thing on Earth, they usually think of whales or redwood trees, but the actual record holder is a fungus. In the Malheur National Forest in Oregon, there is a mushroom known as the honey mushroom that covers over 2,200 acres of land. That is roughly the size of 1,665 football fields. Most of the organism lives underground as a massive web of roots that spreads through the soil and attaches to tree roots. It has been growing for at least 2,400 years, making it not only one of the largest living things, but also one of the oldest. The diamond rain of Jupiter. On Earth, we're used to rain being made of water, but on giant gas planets like Jupiter and Saturn, it actually rains diamonds. These planets have huge amounts of methane in their atmospheres. During massive lightning storms, the lightning turns the methane into soot, which is basically carbon. As that soot falls deeper into the planet's atmosphere, the pressure becomes so intense that it squeezes the carbon into hard chunks of graphite, and then eventually into solid diamonds. These diamonds fall like hailstones through the atmosphere until they reach the extremely hot core of the planet, where they eventually melt into liquid carbon. The speed of a sneeze. Sneezing is your body's way of clearing out irritants from your nose, but the force behind it is surprisingly powerful. When you sneeze, air and droplets of mucus can fly out of your nose at speeds of up to 100 miles per hour. A single sneeze can send 100,000 germs into the air, and these droplets can travel up to 30 feet away. This is why it is so important to cover your mouth with your elbow. The sheer velocity of sneeze is enough to spread a cold or flu across an entire room in a matter of seconds. The fingerprints of koalas. Koalas are famous for sleeping all day and eating eucalyptus leaves, but they have a very strange physical trait in common with humans. They are one of the few animals in the world that have unique fingerprints. Even under a high-power microscope, it is extremely difficult to tell a koala's fingerprint apart from a human's fingerprint. The ridges and swirls are so similar that there have been stories of police being momentarily confused at crime scenes because koala prints were found on surfaces. Scientists believe they evolved these prints to help them grip the bark of the trees they climb. The gold inside you. Every single person on Earth has a small amount of gold inside their body. Most of this gold is found in your bloodstream. If you took all the gold from an average-sized adult, you would have about 0.2 milligrams of the precious metal. While that is a tiny amount, not even enough to make a small earring, it plays a role in the electrical signals that move through your nerves. There are roughly 7 billion people on the planet, so if you could somehow collect all the gold from every living human, you would have about 1.5 tons of pure gold. The memory of a goldfish. There is a common myth that goldfish only have a 3-second memory, but this is completely false. Scientific studies have shown that goldfish can actually remember things for months. They can be trained to recognize certain colors, sounds, and even music. Some goldfish have been taught to swim through hoops or push a lever to get food at a specific time of day. They can even recognize their owners and will often swim to the front of the tank when they see the person who usually feeds them, while ignoring strangers. The largest desert in the world. When someone says the word desert, most people imagine hot sand, camels, and a blazing sun. However, a desert is scientifically defined by how much rain or snow falls there, not by how hot it is. Because of this, the largest desert in the world is actually Antarctica. Most of the continent receives less than 2 inches of precipitation per year. It is a polar desert. While it's covered in ice, that ice has been there for thousands of years. Very little new snow actually falls because the air is too cold to hold much moisture.